Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that everything you've been striving for, every selfless act, every nice gesture, every attempt to be the person everyone can rely on, has actually been weighing you down. You're carrying a burden, not because of the responsibilities you've taken on, but because of the invisible expectations you've placed on yourself. You're stuck in a loop, constantly trying to meet others' needs while your own get pushed further down the priority list. You're exhausted, aren't you? Not from work or physical exertion, but from the endless emotional labor of being the nice person. The one who says yes when every fiber of your being wants to say no. The one who smiles even when they're hurting. The one who sacrifices their own happiness, time, and peace of mind just to avoid conflict. It's the lie we've been taught, isn't it? The idea that kindness will be rewarded, that being good will bring you respect and validation. But deep down, you feel it. The hollow exhaustion, the resentment that builds because your kindness is taken for granted, and the constant feeling that no one truly sees or appreciates you for who you are. The truth is, kindness, when given without boundaries, is not a virtue. It's a trap. So here's the paradox. What if the very thing you've been doing to please others is the one thing keeping you from true freedom? What if, instead of trying to please everyone, you embraced the power of self-respect, of saying no when you need to, and of recognizing that your worth is not dependent on how much you give? What if the key to peace isn't in more kindness, but in more strength? The burden of being good. How often have you found yourself in situations where you give and give, only to feel drained, unappreciated, and invisible? You've been taught that kindness is the key to happiness, that being good means being selfless and putting others first. But what happens when this endless self-sacrifice starts to feel like a weight, pressing down on your spirit, leaving you exhausted and hollow? Ask yourself, how many times have you bent over backward to avoid confrontation, to please someone else, or to make sure everyone else is happy, even at the cost of your own peace? How many decisions have you made out of fear of rejection or the anxiety of upsetting someone, only to realize that the person you've sacrificed for doesn't even see the depth of your effort? The truth is, while you're busy being good, you're neglecting the most important relationship in your life, the one with yourself. The world teaches us that the more we give, the more we're valued. That kindness, selflessness, and putting others' needs first will earn us respect and love. But reality doesn't quite work that way, does it? How often have you been the person who constantly supports others, only to feel overlooked when you need help? How often has your kindness been used against you, leaving you feeling manipulated, taken for granted, and stuck in a cycle where your needs are secondary to everyone else's? Here's the problem with this. Kindness, when not paired with boundaries, is perceived as weakness. People don't respect those who are constantly available to meet everyone else's needs. They take advantage of your generosity, and the more you give, the less they see your value. Why? Because without limits, your kindness becomes a tool for others, rather than an act of genuine love. The very act of trying to please others, of sacrificing your own desires to make people happy, leaves you with nothing. And that emptiness begins to eat away at your self-worth. In a world where we are taught to be good, we are conditioned to believe that self-sacrifice will bring fulfillment. But the truth is, it often leads to frustration and resentment. The more you give, the less you feel seen or valued. And while others might take your kindness for granted, it becomes easier for them to forget that you have your own needs, your own desires, and your own limits. But here's the catch. When you constantly put others' needs before your own, you are failing to protect your own well-being. You're not setting the boundaries necessary to preserve your energy or to foster the relationships that matter most. Instead, you are giving power away, letting others dictate your emotional state, and becoming a passive player in your own life. It's time to challenge this ingrained belief. It's time to ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped giving so much of yourself away? What if the key to real happiness wasn't in self-sacrifice, but in self-respect? You've been conditioned to believe that being the good person is the way to gain approval and love. But in reality, it's not the path to fulfillment. It's the road to emotional depletion and resentment. To truly find peace, you need to shift your mindset from self-sacrifice to self-preservation. You need to begin living for yourself, not for the validation or approval of others. It's time to stop being good for the sake of others and start being good to yourself. Introduction of Machiavelli, Power, Strategy, and the Real World. What if the key to success isn't about being nice, selfless, or constantly bending to the needs of others? What if instead it's about understanding the brutal realities of power and strategy and making choices that align with your true desires and goals? This is where the philosophy of Niccolo Machiavelli comes in, a name synonymous with political power, manipulation, and strategic thinking. But here's the truth. Machiavelli isn't the villain many make him out to be. In fact, his ideas have profound relevance today, especially when it comes to understanding how to navigate a world where your kindness is often exploited and your self-worth is undervalued. In The Prince, Machiavelli isn't advocating for cruelty or ruthless exploitation for its own sake. He's advocating for awareness. Awareness of the power dynamics that shape human behavior and the world around us. He's showing us how the game is played, and more importantly, how we can play it without being controlled by it. The misconception that kindness alone will lead to respect is shattered by Machiavelli's worldview, which sees people for what they truly are, motivated by self-interest, competition, and the need to assert power. Machiavelli was aware of the fundamental truth. People don't respect those who let themselves be trampled by others. Respect is earned through strategy, foresight, and knowing when to act and when to withdraw. The world doesn't value kindness as much as we are led to believe. It values strength, influence, and the ability to set boundaries that others must respect. The relentless pursuit of kindness without purpose can often leave you open to manipulation and exploitation, leaving you feeling drained and taken advantage of. Machiavelli's message is not that we should abandon our moral compass, but rather that we must navigate the world with awareness and intelligence, not blind adherence to virtue. When you understand the pure strategies that govern human interactions, whether in the workplace, in relationships, or in any area of life, you gain the ability to control your own fate, rather than being swept along by external forces. His work isn't about justifying cruelty, but rather empowering you to act with intention and authenticity in a world where others may try to take advantage of your kindness. But how does Machiavelli's philosophy connect to your life today? The modern world is filled with challenges, people competing for attention, social validation, professional success, and recognition. And yet, many are stuck in a cycle of trying to please everyone, sacrificing their own desires in an attempt to fit into the expectations of others. They operate from a place of reactivity, responding to others' demands rather than acting intentionally and with a clear sense of self-respect. Machiavelli encourages us to adopt a more strategic mindset. He suggests that just as a ruler must maintain power by understanding the forces that shape the political landscape, you must understand the dynamics of your own life. This means recognizing when to be assertive, when to stand firm, and when to withdraw. His famous statement, "The ends justify the means," doesn't mean that morality should be abandoned. It means you should be prepared to do what is necessary to protect your interests, ensure your growth, and maintain your self-respect. As we continue to explore this idea, remember this: self-respect isn't something given to you. It's something you create by choosing to act with authority over your own life. Machiavelli's lessons can help guide you toward a life of authenticity, and power, where you stop bending to others' expectations and start mastering the game of life on your own terms. The harsh reality. The world doesn't value goodness. Let's face it, we live in a world that doesn't reward kindness the way we think it should. You've been told that if you're nice, generous, and self-sacrificing, you'll earn the respect and success you deserve. You've been told that the good guys finish first. But how many times have you found yourself being the nice one, only to watch others pass you by? How many times have you sacrificed your time, energy, or even your well-being, only to be overlooked or worse, taken advantage of? The truth is, kindness alone doesn't guarantee respect. It doesn't guarantee success. It doesn't guarantee anything except exhaustion and frustration when you realize that despite your best efforts, you're still stuck in the same place. Why? Because the world doesn't value kindness if it's not backed by strength and boundaries. Kindness without strength is seen as weakness. When you let others walk all over you in the name of being nice, you lose the respect you so desperately seek. Think about the people who do get ahead. Are they the ones who bend over backward to please everyone? Are they the ones who are constantly giving, always putting others' needs first? They're the ones who set clear boundaries, who know when to say no, and who act with intention and self-respect. They're the ones who aren't afraid to stand their ground, even if it means disappointing someone. And that's where the power lies, not in being liked by everyone, but in maintaining your personal authority and understanding when to assert your needs and desires. In the world of power dynamics, whether in the workplace, relationships, or society at large, it's those who control the narrative who command respect. Being nice without strategy makes you a doormat for others to walk on. As much as society likes to praise kindness, it ultimately values strength and power more. Just look at the most successful people. Are they known for their kindness alone, or is it their ability to navigate the world with assertiveness and self-assurance? Machiavelli understood this concept perfectly. He famously stated that a ruler should be feared or respected, not loved. Why? Because love is fleeting, while respect is earned. In the same way, people will respect you when they see that you are unwilling to compromise your integrity, unwilling to let others take advantage of you, and willing to stand firm in your convictions. In a world full of people trying to gain attention and approval, those who stand strong in their own power don't need to chase it. They attract it. Think about this. How many times have you been the one to give, to please, to make things work, only to have others take advantage of you? How many times have you been the one who gets overlooked, while others who don't play by the same rules seem to rise above? This isn't a coincidence. It's the reality of a world that rewards those who assert themselves and take control. It's not about being ruthless or cruel, but about recognizing the importance of self-respect and personal boundaries. Kindness can be a tool, but only if it's wielded with strength. Without strength, kindness becomes a weakness that others can exploit. When you fail to assert yourself, when you let others dictate the terms of your life, you inadvertently teach them that you have no boundaries. And in doing so, you lose respect, not just from others but from yourself. The truth is, we all have a need for recognition and respect, but we often go about seeking it in the wrong ways. We seek it from others, from external sources, thinking that kindness and self-sacrifice will earn us what we want. But the real power comes when we stop seeking approval from others and start acting with intention. The moment you stop pleasing people is the moment you reclaim your power. When you start setting boundaries and making choices based on what you need, you start attracting the respect and success that you've been chasing all along. The world doesn't reward goodness for goodness' sake. It rewards strength, resilience, and the ability to stand up for yourself. So ask yourself, how much of your life have you spent trying to be the nice person? How much of that time have you spent feeling frustrated, unappreciated, or overlooked? The next step is simple. Stop being afraid of saying no. Stop fearing that people will dislike you or think less of you, because the more you give up your own power to please others, the more you end up losing control of your own life. The world might not value kindness on its own, but when you combine it with strength, assertiveness, and self-respect, it becomes a powerful tool that others will recognize and respect. It's time to stop waiting for validation from others and start creating your own path to respect and success. The psychological roots of submission. Why do we keep pleasing others? Why do we continue to sacrifice our well-being for the approval of those around us? The truth is, deep down, it's not just a desire to be liked, it's a fear. A fear of rejection, of abandonment, of not being seen or valued. Psychologically, we are wired for connection, and the fear of being isolated, ignored, or unloved triggers a deep need to please others, even at the cost of our own happiness. Consider this. How many times have you put someone else's needs ahead of your own, simply to avoid conflict or the discomfort of saying no? How many times have you abandoned your own desires, not because you truly wanted to, but because you feared the emotional fallout of not pleasing someone else? The need to please others is often rooted in fear, and this fear manifests itself in self-sabotage. We act as if we're doing something good by being accommodating, but in reality, we're betraying our own needs, our values, and our boundaries. This tendency to please others stems from our evolutionary biology. In our primitive past, being accepted by the group was a matter of survival. If you were cast out or rejected, your chances of survival decreased dramatically. That fear is still deeply ingrained in our psyche today. We seek acceptance and approval because we believe that our worth is tied to how others perceive us. The problem, however, is that we often lose ourselves in the process. We become so consumed with the fear of rejection that we abandon our authentic selves, opting for the approval of others over self-empowerment. But here's the paradox. The more you sacrifice yourself for others, the less authenticity you have. You start living a life based on the approval of others, rather than what truly matters to you. The more you try to please people, the more disconnected you become from who you really are. And when you lose sight of who you truly are, you open the door to resentment, frustration, and burnout. The very thing that was supposed to bring you connection, pleasing others, ends up isolating you from your true self. This cognitive dissonance, the tension between wanting to be good, kind, and helpful, and the underlying resentment that comes from not living in alignment with your own needs, creates a psychological burden. The more you sacrifice, the more you internalize the belief that your worth is dependent on your ability to please others. And the more you try to be the nice person, the more you reinforce this destructive cycle. It's a pattern that keeps you trapped in a loop of self-abandonment, only to realize, when it's too late, that all the sacrifices you've made have done nothing but drain you. And this cycle becomes even more complicated by the fear of confrontation. You start avoiding necessary conflicts, not because you don't have the strength to handle them, but because you believe that confrontation will lead to rejection. You convince yourself that keeping the peace, even at the expense of your own needs, is better than facing the uncomfortable truth that your kindness may not be reciprocated. But what happens when that peace is kept at the cost of your own peace? What happens when, in trying to please everyone, you lose touch with what really makes you happy? You end up exhausted and empty, constantly running on a treadmill of external validation, but never getting anywhere meaningful. In these moments of self-reflection, you must ask yourself, is your kindness rooted in a desire for connection, or is it a mask for fear? Are you doing things for others because it brings you joy, or because you fear judgment, conflict, or loneliness? The fear of rejection and abandonment is the real driver behind your submission, not the genuine desire to be kind. And it's this fear, left unchecked, that keeps you from stepping into your true power. When you make pleasing others your sole focus, you forego the most important relationship of all, the one you have with yourself. And that's where the true work begins. Understanding that you are not defined by others' approval is the first step toward reclaiming your personal power. It's time to break free from the need to please, to stop living in fear of rejection, and to start living in alignment with your true self. The shift from pleasing to personal power. Now that we understand the psychological roots of submission, it's time to explore the transformative shift from pleasing others to embracing personal power. This isn't about rejecting kindness or becoming cold and detached. It's about shifting your mindset from external validation to internal strength, from living for others to living for yourself. This shift requires setting boundaries, reclaiming your autonomy, and taking intentional steps towards self-empowerment. Imagine this: every time you say yes to something that doesn't serve you, you give away a piece of your power. But when you start saying no to things that drain you or don't align with your values, you begin to regain control. Setting boundaries is an act of self-respect, not selfishness. It's a declaration that your time, energy, and emotional well-being are valuable and that you are worthy of honoring your own needs. The power of no is one of the most liberating actions you can take. Saying no without guilt opens the door to a life of intention, where you make decisions based on what truly matters to you, not on the fear of disappointing others or being seen as unkind. Think about it. How often do you agree to do something simply to avoid feeling guilty or letting someone down? How many times have you sacrificed your own happiness for the sake of someone else's expectations? Each time you do this, you chip away at your own sense of self-worth and power. In the past, you may have believed that saying no made you a bad person. You may have feared that others would see you as selfish or unkind. But here's the truth. Setting boundaries is the ultimate form of self-love. When you say no to what doesn't serve you, you're saying yes to your own well-being. You're affirming that your needs matter as much as anyone else's. And when you start to say no to things that drain you, you make space for the things that truly nourish and empower you. But the challenge doesn't stop there. The real transformation happens when you begin to embrace strategic kindness. This means you are no longer ruled by the fear of rejection, but instead, you act with purpose. You decide when to give, when to help, and when to protect your energy. Strategic kindness is about aligning your actions with your values, using both kindness and assertiveness to build healthier relationships and create an empowered life. It's the delicate balance between being generous and understanding, while also standing firm in your own needs and values. Take a moment to reflect. How many times have you gone out of your way to please someone, only to feel drained and unappreciated afterward? How often have you neglected your own desires or goals just to keep the peace? Strategic kindness isn't about being cold or manipulative. It's about making conscious decisions that prioritize both your well-being and the well-being of others. It's about giving without depleting yourself and making sure your actions align with your core values. The beauty of this shift is that it creates mutual respect in all of your relationships. When you stop people-pleasing and start acting with purpose, others will begin to see you as a strong, authentic individual who knows their worth. You will no longer be overlooked or taken for granted. Instead, you will command respect, not through manipulation or power struggles, but through integrity and authenticity. One of the key principles of Machiavelli's philosophy in The Prince is that a leader must be both strong and strategic. He emphasized the importance of cultivating power and influence without relying on blind kindness or self-sacrifice. In the same way, you can begin to use your kindness strategically. Machiavelli's duality of being like the fox and the lion, cunning and strong, applies perfectly to modern personal dynamics. You can still be compassionate, but you can also stand your ground when necessary. The goal is to become a person who is respected for your values, not just for your ability to please. As you begin to implement these shifts, you'll notice that the need to please others begins to fade. You will start making decisions based on your own long-term vision and deepest desires, rather than the short-term desire to be liked or accepted. When you stop seeking validation, you open yourself up to a world of possibilities and opportunities that are aligned with your true self. The process of reclaiming your power isn't always easy. It involves difficult conversations, setting firm boundaries, and sometimes disappointing others. But the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. And the rewards are profound. A life of authenticity, where you live in alignment with your true desires and goals, and where your relationships are built on mutual respect and understanding. In the next section, we will explore the transformative power of saying no, how this simple act can be a key to your personal freedom and empowerment. We'll discuss how strategic refusal can reshape your interactions, giving you more control over your life and your energy. Stay tuned as we dive deeper into the practical tools for breaking free from the people-pleasing trap. The power of no, and why saying it is liberating. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that your life has been shaped by a series of unspoken agreements. Every yes you've said to others, every time you've put someone else's needs before your own. What if I told you that the most empowering thing you could do today is simply say no? Saying no is often viewed as an act of selfishness, but in reality, it's one of the most powerful acts of self-preservation you can practice. Saying no doesn't mean rejecting people or becoming cold. It means protecting your time, energy, and emotional well-being. When you say no, you're setting a boundary that communicates what matters to you. You're telling the world, I respect myself enough to protect my peace. Take a moment and think about it. How often do you say yes out of obligation? How often do you agree to things that drain you? Whether it's an extra task at work, a favor for a friend, or an invitation to something that doesn't align with your values. Every time you say yes when you really mean no, you are depleting yourself. Your energy is finite, and every moment spent pleasing others at the expense of your own needs is a moment of self-neglect. But here's the paradox. By learning to say no, you reclaim your power. You stop being a passive participant in other people's agendas and start being the author of your own life. Saying no is a liberating act because it takes the pressure off you to please everyone else. You stop living for others' approval and begin making choices based on what you need to thrive, not what you think others expect of you. Let's break this down. How does it feel to say no when it truly matters? It feels empowering. It feels like freedom because you are no longer enslaved by other people's expectations. The fear of rejection or conflict may still linger, but over time, you begin to realize that true relationships are based on respect, not on manipulation or compliance. What if you stopped feeling guilty for setting boundaries? Releasing the guilt that comes with saying no is a key part of reclaiming your autonomy. The truth is, the people who really care about you will respect your boundaries. Those who react negatively to your no may be the ones who've been benefiting from your submission. Notice who gets uncomfortable when you assert yourself. These are often the people who have been depending on you to say yes without question. Saying no also builds your self-respect. When you deny something that isn't in alignment with your values, you are asserting your worth. You are saying, I am worthy of my own time and energy. I will not squander it on things that do not serve my growth. It might feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you've been conditioned to please others, but with practice, saying no becomes an essential tool for personal empowerment. Think about the relationships in your life. How often have you felt resentful after saying yes when you really wanted to say no? How much emotional energy have you spent on fulfilling other people's needs at the expense of your own? When you consistently put others before yourself, you are sending a message to the universe that you are not worthy of your own time. But when you say no, you send a powerful message. I value myself and my needs. By learning to say no, you begin to create the life you truly want. You stop running on autopilot, saying yes to things out of habit, fear, or guilt. And instead, you begin to choose your actions intentionally. You focus on the things that bring you meaning and fulfillment, not fleeting pleasures or external approval. Saying no gives you the space to say yes to what really matters. Now imagine how your life would change if you stopped apologizing for saying no and started seeing it as an essential tool for your personal growth. How much more authentic would your relationships be if everyone respected your boundaries? What would it feel like to walk through the world unburdened by the need to please everyone? Saying no is not the end of your kindness or compassion. In fact, it allows you to be more authentic in your interactions. You are no longer playing a role or pretending to be someone you're not. Instead, you're showing up as your true self, strong, self-respecting, and empowered. In the next section, we'll explore how to find the balance between kindness and strength, and how embracing both aspects can lead to healthier, more fulfilling relationships. But for now, reflect on how you can start incorporating the power of no into your life. Starting today. How to become respected without losing yourself. Imagine a life where you no longer feel torn between your authentic self and the expectations others place on you. A life where you no longer feel pressured to please everyone or shrink to fit into the mold that society or your relationships try to carve for you. What if I told you that true respect doesn't come from being nice or agreeable all the time, but from being consistent in who you are, regardless of how others might react? The key to becoming respected without losing yourself is balance. It's about being authentic while also being assertive, showing the world who you truly are without needing everyone's approval. It's about standing your ground without the fear of rejection. When you begin to live authentically, you stop seeking validation from others because you no longer need it. You respect yourself, and in turn, others are drawn to that strength and confidence. Being true to yourself means aligning your actions with your deepest values, even when others might not understand or approve. The world may try to push you in different directions, telling you what's acceptable or normal, but authenticity means not bending to fit into those molds. It's about having the courage to stand up for yourself, even when it's uncomfortable, and speak your truth, even when it's not what everyone else wants to hear. When you are consistent in who you are, people start to notice. They see the strength in your character, the integrity of your actions. Respect isn't something you have to beg for or perform for. It's something that naturally arises from living in alignment with your values. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be consistent in your integrity. This is where the concept of boundaries plays a critical role. Respect yourself enough to know when to say no and when to stand firm. Boundaries are a reflection of your self-worth. They show the world that you value yourself, your time, and your energy. They let others know that you will not tolerate disrespect or manipulation. Boundaries allow you to choose who gets to influence your life and who doesn't. One of the biggest challenges to living authentically is the fear of disapproval. But here's the thing. If you're always worried about what others think, you'll never have the energy to focus on what really matters. Fear of rejection keeps you stuck in a cycle of self-sabotage, where you prioritize others' opinions over your own sense of worth. When you choose to be authentic, you start to prioritize your own truth, and that's when real respect begins to flourish. Think about the people you truly respect. Are they the ones who bend over backward to fit in? Or are they the ones who walk with confidence, who know who they are, and who refuse to change themselves to please others? The people you respect are often the ones who stay true to themselves, even when it's difficult. They don't sacrifice their values for the sake of acceptance. Becoming respected without losing yourself requires making choices that align with your long-term vision, not with the short-term approval of others. It's about committing to the journey of self-discovery and personal growth, knowing that respect will follow when you are consistent in your authentic path. Now think about how you can begin this journey. What are the values that are non-negotiable for you? What are the areas of your life where you've been compromising yourself just to fit in or to please others? The key to finding balance is learning to say no when needed and yes to what aligns with your true self. When you start living for yourself, people will respect you, not for what you do, but for who you are. In the next section, we'll explore how embracing authenticity in our relationships, both personal and professional, leads to deeper connections, mutual respect, and the freedom to live without the chains of expectation. But for now, think about how you can begin living more authentically today. The power to be respected and true to yourself is already within you. The only question is, are you ready to unlock it? The transformation. Now picture yourself stepping into a new version of your life, one where you no longer have to play the role of the nice guy or the people pleaser to be accepted. Imagine breaking free from the chains of self-sacrifice, where you can live authentically, with purpose and integrity. What does it feel like to be the person who doesn't seek approval because they respect themselves first? This transformation doesn't happen overnight, but the process begins the moment you decide to take control of your life. When you stop chasing validation and start acting in alignment with your core values, you begin to break free from the cycle of disappointment and unfulfilled desire. You take a stand, not for others but for yourself. You choose your boundaries, your values, and your vision for the life you want to create. The path ahead isn't always easy. There will be times when fear of rejection tries to pull you back, when old patterns tempt you to slip into the comfortable, familiar trap of people-pleasing. But with each step, you grow stronger. You reclaim your authentic self. You regain your power, and you build respect, not just from others, but from yourself. The truth is, your self-worth has never been dependent on external approval. The more you align with your true essence, the more you will naturally attract the respect and relationships you deserve. It's not about becoming something you're not. It's about becoming who you've always been, a person who is unapologetically true to themselves, regardless of what others think. So as you reflect on what you've learned, ask yourself, how many times have you said yes when you meant no? How many times have you sacrificed your own peace to keep the peace with others? Starting today, what small actions can you take to shift away from being a passive player in your own life and instead become the empowered, respected individual you were always meant to be? This is the beginning of your transformation. From being trapped in the cycle of external validation to standing tall in your own truth. The choice is yours, to stay stuck in the old patterns of pleasing and self-sacrifice, or to embrace your newfound strength, set clear boundaries, and claim the life you truly deserve. Now, take this moment to commit. Start setting your boundaries, respect your needs, and embrace your authentic self. It's time to live with intention, free from the fear of judgment and the need for validation. This is your path to freedom. And it starts now.